The Hoosic River in northwestern Massachusetts has been a vital part of the history of the Berkshires. Its beauty, strength, and gorgeous waterways have drawn many people to the area since colonial times. 76 miles long, the Hoosic's headwaters lie in Cheshire, Massachusetts. The South Branch flows north to converge with the North Branch in North Adams. Then it flows west to Williamstown, northwest to Vermont, and finally into New York State's Hudson River. Its gorgeous waterways have drawn many people to the area, and its strength has powered factories along its banks. However, the Hoosic River in North Adams is very different from the rest of the river because of its unique history. Originally settled in the mid-1700s, North Adams became a mill town during the 19th century, based on the water power of the Hoosic River.
In North Adams, you have the confluence of the north and south branches of the river. So this was a terrific place to build mills. In fact, Jeremiah Colgrove, who purchased the grist mill that Ephraim Williams had built, is said to have told his wife, "North Adams may not be a city now, but it will be. All this water power wasn't put here for nothing."
These industries employed thousands of workers and helped turn North Adams into a city thriving with churches, schools, a hospital, multiple theaters, even a boxing ring. This all changed in the 1920s, when many factories and mills relocated to the south, where the lack of unions meant lower wages and higher profits.
If anything saved North Adams at that time, it was the Sprague Specialties Company, which came in 1929, just ahead of the stock market crash. And though they did go to the brink of bankruptcy, by 1936 they had turned it around, and within 20 years they were a multinational corporation.
While the rivers in North Adams were great for industry, they had a terrifying side to them. Factories and homes that crowded the banks of the Hoosic were vulnerable to floods. Heavy rains in the 1920s and 30s caused the Hoosic River to overflow its banks, devastating North Adams. The destruction was costly, and in 1948, 8 inches of rain fell over a 3-day period. Entire neighborhoods were swept away, while bridges and roads were destroyed.
My oldest brother was born December 31st, 1948, and it was a terrible flood that day, and they had to bring my mother across a certain section of town who was giving birth in a boat.
After this disastrous flood, the city appealed for assistance from the federal government. As a result, in 1950 the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began to dig out the Hoosic River, erecting 2.7 miles of concrete flood chutes that would contain the river through its heaviest floods. For more than 50 years, those chutes have kept North Adams safe from the wrath of the Hoosic River. But while these chutes successfully tamed the river, they were disastrous for the ecosystem of the Hoosic, ensuring that nothing would live in the section of the river flowing through North Adams. 15-foot-high walls and chain-link fences also made the Hoosic inaccessible to the people of North Adams. The flood chutes were not the only thing that caused troubles for the Hoosic River. Throughout the history of North Adams, the river was used and abused. Factories and companies would use the Hoosic for its water power, then abuse it by dumping their waste into it.
It would change color, be like a light green. They had fish kills. They used to report some serious fish kills. And one summer I worked in the Arnold Print Works. My father was a textile printer there, and he got me a summer job there. And they had the drains that where you dump the color, and it went right into the river. It drained directly to the Hoosic River. And this would go on 3 or 4 times a year, or 3 or 4 times a summer, anyways.
Fortunately for the Hoosic, in 1972 the Clean Water Act was passed, stopping most industrial businesses from dumping pollutants into it. While there still is a small amount of pollution, the river has become cleaner, and many local residents now use the river for recreation. The Hoosic River Revival is a grassroots organization that began in 2008 to see whether they could revitalize the river into something more than an eyesore. After receiving the support of then-Mayor Barrett, the organization began planning with the community, hosting community conversation meetings with hundreds of local residents. The organization moved forward with a plan to open up the Hoosic River back for the community. HRR is now focusing its efforts on a pilot project in the southern branch. Hoosic River Revival's primary focus is to maintain the same level of flood protection.
What's important to consider with the current system is that it's made of concrete. It's over 60 years old. Concrete lasts and maintains safety for sure 50 years. And after that, there is no assurance. As it happens, we've had 2 or 3 walls fall down. That is the 20-foot wide section of a wall fall down. It is a good thing that we're doing this project because after 60 years with falling walls and cracks that we have, we would have to be doing this anyway.
As a result, maintaining the flood protection is integral to the project plan. Additionally, the Hoosic River Revival also seeks to restore the ecosystem in the river by improving the water quality as well as the quantity and diversity of plants and animals in the river.
But it will be a much more naturally designed river with rocks in the bottom and fish flowing and natural vegetation along the sides.
The Hoosic River will be a living river again, teeming with wildlife. The Hoosic River Revival will benefit North Adams by adding to its unique charm, creating recreational opportunities along the riverbanks for everyone in North Adams. In the plans are multiple bike paths and walking trails along the river, which will allow residents and visitors to interact with the river. HRR will add recreational spaces for people, including a dog park, amphitheater steps near the riverways, and a splash pad. When fish move back into the river as part of our ecosystem restoration, opportunities for fishing will be created within North Adams, while the river will also be suitable for canoeing and kayaking. Since 2008, the Hoosic River Revival has talked to hundreds of community members. The message from residents is clear. North Adams should have a clean, accessible, flood-controlled Hoosic River that is aesthetically pleasing, so that our city becomes a destination point, thereby enhancing its recreational, cultural, and economic vitality. A benefit of the Hoosic River Revival is that it will promote business development along the river.
Think about homes or you think about businesses springing up along our flood control walls. Well, that's not going to happen. First of all, it's very highly regulated, and I think that there are a lot of different things that you can do with respect to economic development as you're doing these projects. So how do you fit in, if you're doing one segment of the river, how do you fit in a retail segment to that, or how do you fit in some new infill housing in those sections? And then the other thing too is that if you've got a really strong recreational waterway that's diverse, that provides for walking, that provides for fishing, that provides for picnicking and whatever, or just the aesthetic beauty of it, you will attract people here for that.
There isn't a single reason in the world why the Hoosic River can't do for North Adams what the Battenkill River has done for Manchester, Vermont.
It makes the town much more attractive as a community. That could attract more people.
So when you look at all of these river projects around the country, when you look at Providence, you look at San Antonio, some of these other things, they really do draw a lot of people. Like I said, there's something therapeutic about being around some sort of tranquil water or water that you can access. And so I do think that, again, I think there's environmental reasons to do this. I think there's recreational reasons to do this, and I think there are social reasons to do this, but there are also economic reasons to do this.
A 21st century approach to flood control, which the River Revival proposes, will create an accessible, healthy river with adjacent green space and bike trails, reconnecting us to the river, revitalizing the city, and benefiting residents and visitors alike.